Hello, my dear students. Hope you are all well, because after a long 1 week, we again meet with each other. COVID-19 pandemic has restrained us within our home, and at the same time, in the last week on 20th May, we have gone through a violent natural calamity, Amphan. And I have been waiting to meet with you, but the disruption of the internet and different obstructions are there. So today again I resume my classes. Asleep in the Valley, we have already finished Strong Roots. Asleep in the Valley is written by the French poet Jean-Nicolas Arthur Rimbaud. Arthur Rimbaud is known as the marvelous boy of French poetry. He was born on October 20, 1854. His father was an army captain, and Rimbaud inherited the adventurous spirit from his father. Rimbaud's life as a poet can only be compared to that of unpredictable course of a meteor. একদম উল্কার মতো, ধূমকেতুর মতো, একটা বিশেষভাবে নির্দিষ্ট করা যায় না, এমন অনির্দিষ্ট. Because when he was aged 6, his father deserted them. Deprived of the care and affection of his father, Rimbaud's sensitive soul was further afflicted by a severe and cold mother. She was, his mother at times, brutally insensitive, and he hints at his orphan family in one of his early poems, Orphans' New Year Gifts. In this poem, he has expressed his dejection, his loneliness, his desolation. Naturally, in the first 30 of his poems, we find his craving for tenderness and desolation. He felt desolate. In addition to this, the Franco-Prussian War in the year 1877, it was held in the war 1877, the Franco-Prussian War. France and Germany, তারা যুদ্ধে হয়েছিল, মত্ত হয়েছিল, and the collapse of the discredited Second Empire. He wrote a few poems by means of which he firmly lends his voice against any kind of repressive and destructive force. He joined the army, Dutch colonial army, in the year 1871. The important works of Rimbaud include La Étrenesse des Orphelins, 1870-তে পাবলিশ হয়েছিল. The Drunken Boat, it was published in the year 1871. La Illuminations, published in the year 1872. And A Season in Hell in the year 1873. He was a poet associated with literary movements like Symbolism, Dadaism, and Surrealism. He started writing poems at the age of 16 and gave it up at the age of 19. Very short period of his poetic life. Rimbaud had a great influence on the 20th century musicians and artists. Poets like Dylan Thomas, Allen Ginsberg, artists like Pablo Picasso, and singers like Bob Dylan were deeply influenced by his poems. Asleep in the Valley, it is a poem. It was published probably, there are 2 years would be mentioned. in different books. The background is either it was in the background of Franco-Prussian War in the year 1870. Franco-Prussian War আমি আগেই তোমাদের যেটা বললাম 1877, সেটা হচ্ছে ফ্রান্স ভার্সাস রাশিয়া, ফ্রাঙ্কো-রাশিয়ান ওয়ার। এটা একটু করে নেবে, কারেকশন করে নেবে। ফ্রাঙ্কো-প্রুশিয়ান ওয়ারটা 1870 and Franco-Russian war it was happened in the year 1877, and he joined in the Dutch colonial army in the year 1876. This poem may be composed after 1870 and in between 1877, just after 1871 to 1877 it is probably composed by him. And this poem was published posthumously by one of his bosom friends, Oliver Barnard. Oliver Barnard, the original poem he translated La Dormière du Vel, La Dormière du Vel, Dormière যেভাবে উচ্চারণ করতে পারো, DUR দু ভ্যাল। এই ফ্রেঞ্চ পোয়েট্রিটা ইংরেজিতে ট্রান্সলেট করেছেন অলিভার বার্নার। Asleep in the Valley is a war poem. It is an anti-war poem. Whenever we will discuss on war poem, then we must not neglect the poems of early writings on war, First World War and Second World War. Thomas Hardy's In Time of the Breaking of Nations. In this poem, Thomas Hardy has reflected very clearly how the First World War has given a prominent impact on the human life, on the human society. In this poem, there are 3 stanzas, 3 pastoral pictures are depicted in the poem. In the first stanza, he has depicted the process of cultivation. In the second stanza, he has depicted the process of fire making. And in the final stanza, he has depicted the process of love making. আমাদের এখানে খুব বেশি বিস্তৃতভাবে আলোচনা করার সুযোগ নেই, আমি সংক্ষেপে উল্লেখ করছি, তোমরা সেটা প্রয়োজনে একটু দেখে নিতে পারো বা এর রেফারেন্স হিসেবে আলোচনা করার জন্য এই পোয়েট্রিটির ব্যাকগ্রাউন্ড, সে কারণেই আমরা বলছি। সেটা পরে নিশ্চিতভাবে ক্লাসে আমরা আরো ডিটেলস আলোচনা করতে পারবো। সেক্ষেত্রে দেখা যাচ্ছে যে এই 3টে যে প্যাস্টোরাল পিকচার টমাস হার্ডি ইন টাইম অফ দি ব্রেকিং অফ নেশনস কবিতাতে তিনি ডেসক্রাইব করছেন, তিনি ডেপিক্ট করছেন, সেখানে দেখো আমরা লক্ষ্য করছি 3 primordial, 3 elemental forces of life, primary and elemental forces of life has been continued even after the devastating war, the First World War. The process of cultivation, the process of fire making, and the process of love making. These are the primal and elemental forces of life. It has been continued, and the war did not hamper it. If we go to the poems of Wilfred Owen, before going to the poems of Wilfred Owen, we must mention this, that there are a number of poets who exalted war. They had a romantic view about war, like Rupert Brooke. There are 2 different schools of poetry related with war. The group of poets led by Rupert Brooke, they supported the war. They described in their poems in support of the romantic view of war, and on the other hand the hard reality of the war, like Siegfried Sassoon, Wilfred Owen, and many other poems, Thomas Hardy also. They are known as the anti-war poets. They are known as the anti-war poets. So this is a poem deals with anti-war concept. I have mentioned already that if we do not discuss Siegfried Sassoon or Wilfred Owen, it would not be clear to us the poem of Arthur Rimbaud, Asleep in the Valley. If we go to the poem The Send-Off by Wilfred Owen, or Futility, or the more poignant anti-war poem is The Strange Meeting, what we see? In the poem Send-Off, we see that the soldiers, they are dispatched in the night, uploading trains with the loaded trains. The band of soldiers are marching in the dark lane. They reached the station and the train will be loaded. There will be none to see of them. Send-off means a ceremonial farewell, and the send-off, the see-off to the ceremonial farewell to the band of soldiers who are going to the front, who are going to the battlefield for joining the war. And there was none remain present to bid them farewell. Only the near and dear ones, they are waiting with white flowers and garlands, and some dull porters and a casual tramp. Casual tramp means a vagabond, bhaboghure manus. And the casual tramp, he felt very sorry because he would miss them in the upland camp. ভবঘুরে মানুষ যেত ওখানে গিয়ে বিকেল বেলায় সন্ধ্যাবেলায় গিয়ে একটু ওদের সঙ্গে ঠাট্টা তামাশা সময় কাটাতো, সেই সময়টুকু আর কাটাতে পারবে না, চলে যাচ্ছে, তার জন্য তার দুঃখ হচ্ছে। আর কারা না, some dull porters, they are waiting for the passengers and they will carry the loads. The dull porters, that means কুলি তারা অপেক্ষা করছে, তাদের যায় আসে না এ কে কোথায় যাচ্ছে, কারাই বা এরা, what is their purpose, who are they, where will they go, and why? There is no question at all in their mind. And towards the end of the poem, what we see, that some of them will return after the war with some physical deformities, and they will become the burden of the society, of the family, of the nation. The whole nation will be in a jubilant mood, but none will evaluate their importance, none will evaluate their responsibility, what they had performed in the battlefield. They have saved the country at the cost of their own life, but the armchair statesmen and politicians and diplomats, they are in a jubilant mood, they are in a festive mood, they are exalting each other only to show their muscle power. In this way, Wilfred Owen has depicted the grim reality of the war, the callousness of the diplomats, and how the innocent lives are brutally killed in the war. If we go through the strange meeting, then we see the same picture. In the futility, we see the same picture, and Siegfried Sassoon's the hero, we see the same, somehow a little bit difference. And today, our topic of discussion is Asleep in the Valley. This is an anti-war poem. In the two stanzas, the poet Arthur Rimbaud has written in the form of sonnet. In the next class, we shall discuss the poem and the reference of different war poets.